Hi guys, welcome back to my countdown of my top 20 favorite films of all times list. Let's not waste any time, let's get right into number 15. Number 15. Melancholia. I don't want to spend too much time on this one just because I know that I've talked about it in my countdown list of my top 20 favorite films from 2012. It's the second movie so far on this list that I have Kirsten Dunst on, and again, she hasn't necessarily been one of my favorite actresses. I mean, I've liked a lot of her stuff, but she isn't one of those actresses where I think, ooh, I really respect her as an actor or something. But like I said in my countdown for 2012, Melancholia was just one of those movies that the first time I watched it, it deeply affected me, and it had a great impact in my life when I first saw it. So the director, I know around the time that Melancholia came out, and when it was being premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, he was reported to have some major controversy because he basically made statements of like supporting Hitler or something like that. Basically, all he said was, I understand Hitler, and I think he was trying to be sarcastic or he was trying to make a joke, but the tone in his voice didn't indicate that, so it was just very odd and very awkward, and Kirsten Dunst sitting right next to him while he's making those comments is the funniest thing in the world because you can tell she's really trying not to react. I think a film that can divide people if they're not open to well, it depends, because there's some people who like art films, but they don't like pretentious art films, which is kind of an oxymoron because almost all art films require some sort of pretense. But at the same time, there are people who don't like art films and yet still like this movie because it has a message to it that is fairly universal, and it's not super hidden within layers and layers and layers of symbolism. It's fairly straightforward what the movie's talking about, and it rewards repeated viewings because the more you watch it, the more you do see in it. But the main point of the movie and the main message of the movie is very blatant from first watching. The film itself, I've explained the plot before, but basically the film itself is split into two parts, focusing on the two sisters who are the leads of the film. Kirsten Dunst, who plays Justine, and Charlotte Gainsborough, who plays Claire. And the first part of the film basically focuses on Justine and her basically acknowledgement of her depression and suffering of melancholia. How, despite the fact that everything around her is, like, everything in her life should give her the regard to be happy, and that, again, as I've kind of explained before, that it doesn't matter when you feel a certain way, even when people are trying their best to make you happy. If you feel depressed, you feel depressed, and there's very little some people can do about that sometimes. And it's a very universal understanding. And then as we go into the second part of the film, her sister, who has basically done everything she can to support her sister, Justine has fallen to the point where she is no longer able to take care of herself. The depression has become so encompassing, like it has engulfed basically her entire life, that she can no longer take care of herself properly. So Claire ends up taking care of Justine, and she comes to live with them, and at the same time we're also dealing with this possible apocalypse because there is a planet called Melancholia that is basically approaching Earth, and Claire's character is extremely terrified that Melancholia is going to hit Earth, despite the fact that everybody around her is telling her that, we're going to be fine, nothing's going to happen. I don't really want to ruin the movie. I don't want to give away too many spoilers because the movie is an incredibly moving experience, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody who may want to watch it and go through the experience spoiler free. The only thing I can really add on top of what I've already said before is the fact that it is beautifully shot. The music that's used for it is incredibly appropriate for the tone and setting. One of the things I really like about the movie is the fact that the two sections of the movie, which each focuses on one of the sisters, how there really does become this role reversal as the film goes on, where we have Justine, who starts off as very strong and comes off as very confident, and as the night goes on in her wedding, she slowly degrades and becomes more and more depressed, and she slowly loses her life more and more. And then in the second part of the film, we see Claire start off as the stronger figure and be this more rock-like figure in Justine's life, and then as the second part goes on, Justine, if anything, is the one who regains the control in life. Justine is more prepared and calm when the end of the world is coming and the idea of the end of the world, versus Claire, who is just panicking and who's distraught and who is herself, I feel, going through the same thing that Justine had gone through in the first part of the film. It's sort of like they're both going through a learning curve in each of their respective parts of the film, and in the opposite, they kind of redeem themselves by the end of it. I highly recommend this film for anyone who, you know, wants something a little bit more meaningful in their movies. They want something that's a little bit deeper. And I don't mean that, and I don't want to say that this movie is deep or that it's so deep and if you don't get it. I mean, again, there's not really much to get. It's fairly straightforward. You understand what the movie's talking about. Anyone can really understand this film. To me, it's a universal language film, and you don't need, it speaks to everybody, and that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. It really does reward repeated viewings. I think if you're willing to give a bit more of an artsy film a try, I would highly recommend Melancholia. I haven't seen too many of Lars von Trier's other films. Like, I know Antichrist was the film that came out before Melancholia, and I've seen people who've reviewed that movie, and it terrifies the living hell out of me because of the imagery and the implications of what the film might be talking about. But when I watched the review for it, I'm like, you can tell that there's a huge distinction between the movie Antichrist and Melancholia, because the person who was reviewing it was like, the message is very convoluted and you almost don't know exactly what it's supposed to be talking about. You don't know if it's supposed to be on one side of feminism or the other. You don't know if it's supposed to be if it's supposed to be religious or if it's supposed to be secular. It's a very convoluted message, whereas with Melancholia, it's a universal message, and you don't need to do too much digging to find the depth of this movie and to find the amount of emotion and passion that's in it. So that's my number 15 favorite movie of all time. Come back tomorrow for number 14, and keep watching to find out what my number 1 favorite film of all time is. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later.